While many people instinctively fear predators like lions, there's a different kind of fear that haunts narcissists, and it doesn't come with roars or fangs. It's silence. Not just any silence, but a deliberate, composed silence that's paired with steady, unflinching eye contact. That kind of presence doesn't just challenge narcissists. It unravels them. It introduces them to a psychological arena they never anticipated, where dominance isn't asserted through noise but through calm resistance. While society remains captivated by the spectacle of aggressive alpha personalities, the ones who shout, posture, and demand attention, there's a quieter archetype operating in the shadows. He doesn't beg to be seen, but he's impossible to ignore. This is a Sigma male, a self-contained, impenetrable force who disrupts narcissistic dynamics not with aggression, but with complete indifference. At the core of a narcissist strategy lies emotional dependency. They thrive on reactions, praise to inflate their ego, anger to fuel their control, and confusion to keep others off balance. But what happens when they're faced with someone who gives them absolutely nothing? No emotional response, no validation, no resistance to manipulate, just stillness, almost eerie in its steadiness. That's when the Sigma male becomes their worst nightmare. He's untouchable, uninterested, and unreadable. He doesn't need approval, doesn't compete for attention, and instantly detects manipulation like it's painfully obvious. Where others may fall into the narcissist trap, the Sigma simply steps aside, unaffected and unimpressed. And the narcissists, they crumble under the weight of their own impotence. Their tactics fail. Their script doesn't work. It's like watching a malfunctioning machine try to perform in a space where its tricks hold no power, like a flashy karaoke setup brought into the silence of a monastery. This dynamic isn't a matter of social rank or status. It's far deeper. It's psychological combat. And in this quiet war, the Sigma male doesn't need to raise his voice, prove his dominance, or seek control. He doesn't fight on the narcissist's terms. He simply holds his ground, and in doing so wins without saying a word. 1. Sigma males don't get caught in the narcissist's emotional cycle. Most individuals never realize they're slipping into the web of a narcissist until they're already emotionally entangled. What begins with charm quickly turns into confusion. The narcissist initiates what seems like a whirlwind connection, over-the-top affection, compliments that seem too good to be true, and a magnetic pull that feels irresistible. This is known as the love-bombing phase, and it's designed to disarm the target's emotional defenses. But this intoxicating high never lasts. Without warning, the warmth disappears. The narcissist starts to withhold affection, offer backhanded criticisms, and treat the once valued person as if they're suddenly unworthy. This devaluation phase shakes the victim's sense of reality. In desperation to restore the good times, the victim begins seeking reassurance, replaying events in their mind, and chasing closure that never comes. This final manipulation, the hoovering phase, keeps them spinning in a psychological loop, constantly questioning themselves. For most, this pattern becomes addictive, an emotional drug disguised as love. But Sigma males are the exception. They don't get emotionally entangled because they recognize the manipulation before it fully forms. The moment a narcissist starts pouring on excessive praise, the Sigma remains attached, already seeing the game unfold. He isn't moved by flattery because he doesn't rely on it. He isn't seduced by attention because he never needed it to begin with. This independence makes the Sigma untouchable. He doesn't operate on the approval of others. So when the narcissist tries to use silence or drama as weapons, they land with a thud. There is no emotional rise, only stillness. This unshakable calm dismantles a narcissist's playbook entirely. Without reactions, there's no fuel. Without validation, there's no leverage. And without emotional chaos, there's no control. To the narcissist, this is a nightmare scenario. They expect people to cling, to argue, to plead. But the Sigma simply disengages. No argument, no emotional scene, just a quiet refusal to play. And that silence, it's louder and more devastating than any verbal confrontation. The narcissist is left confused, fuming, and alone, performing manipulative routines for an audience that has already walked out. And that's exactly why the Sigma is so dangerous. He doesn't fight back. He just removes himself from the game entirely. 2. Narcissists can't use guilt to control a Sigma male. For narcissists, guilt is a subtle but powerful form of emotional manipulation. They don't need to yell or threaten to gain control. They simply suggest that you are the problem. You hurt them. You disappointed them. You should feel ashamed. Even when you've done nothing wrong, they imply that your actions, or even your boundaries, have caused them pain. Most people fall for this trap. They internalize the guilt, apologize excessively, and work over time to prove they're not the bad guy. They become emotionally entangled, trying to win back the narcissist's approval. In doing so, they hand over their emotional autonomy on a silver platter. But a Sigma male doesn't operate this way. He isn't guilt-driven, he's principle-driven. If a narcissist accuses him of being cold or causing emotional pain without justification, the Sigma doesn't panic. He responds with composed clarity. That's your feeling to manage. This simple sentence reveals a deep emotional truth. The Sigma isn't being cruel. He's drawing a boundary. He understands that guilt, when misused, becomes a psychological weapon rather than a moral compass. The narcissist wants to manipulate emotions to make their victim feel responsible for their emotional void. But the Sigma won't accept responsibility for wounds he didn't cause. This creates a massive problem for the narcissist. They can't twist the Sigma's reality because the Sigma isn't dependent on their approval. They can't plant guilt in a man who critically evaluates the motive behind every accusation. And they certainly can't use emotional debts as leverage against someone who never agreed to the terms. The result? The narcissist spirals. Their usual tactics don't just fall flat. They rebound. They might lash out, cry, accuse, or retreat, all in an attempt to regain emotional dominance. But the Sigma remains grounded. He doesn't gloat, but he also doesn't carry guilt that doesn't belong to him. This is what makes the Sigma truly threatening to a narcissist. His ability to calmly walk away without emotional baggage. He refuses to play the guilt game, and that refusal exposes just how dependent a narcissist is on manipulation. 3. Sigma males don't validate narcissists, they let them sit in silence. Narcissists thrive in environments where they are endlessly praised, flattered, and admired. Their identity is fragile, held together by the reflections others project onto them. They seek validation like oxygen, relying on constant echoes of their own inflated self-image. Phrases like, "You're amazing, you're right," and "everyone else is just jealous" aren't just compliments to them, they're necessities. But when a narcissist encounters a Sigma male, the echo chamber collapses. There's no validation, no laughter at mediocre jokes, no compliments for shallow achievements, no enabling of grandiose delusions, just quiet observation, and that silence is deafening. To the narcissist, silence doesn't feel neutral, it feels judgmental. Without applause or agreement, they feel exposed. They can't tell what the Sigma is thinking, and that ambiguity is terrifying. They're accustomed to people either fawning over them or challenging them loudly. But the Sigma does neither. He simply listens, watches, waits, and says nothing unless something truly needs to be said. This neutral stance destabilizes the narcissist more than outright defiance. It offers no energy to feed on, no reaction to control, and no reassurance to grasp. The narcissists start second-guessing themselves. They feel uncertain. The silence acts like a mirror, not reflecting the fantasy they want to see, but showing them exactly what they are. The Sigma's refusal to play into the narcissist narrative is not confrontational, but it's absolute. He won't humor delusions. He won't echo lies. He won't stroke egos he doesn't respect. That kind of authenticity makes the Sigma a dangerous mirror, one that doesn't distort, flatter, or lie. It reflects truth, and truth for a narcissist is unbearable. So while others dance around a narcissist's emotional landmines, the Sigma male stands still, unmoved. His silence is everything that needs to be said. And to the narcissist, that quiet becomes a roar of rejection. They can't manipulate what they can't engage. And they can't handle a man who doesn't care whether they're pleased or offended. In the Sigma's world, respect must be earned, not demanded. And that, for the narcissist, is the most devastating truth of all. For Sigmas speak in substance, not seduction. Narcissists don't just listen when someone speaks. They scan. Every word you say, every pause, Every tone shift, they're searching. Not for truth, not for insight, but for emotional cues that flatter their ego or affirm their grandiose self-image. They're not interested in meaningful dialogue. What they want is adoration disguised as conversation. Every interaction becomes a fishing expedition for compliments, reassurance, or validation. Their questions aren't questions, they're tests in disguise. Did you see how impressive I was? Or, did you hear what they said about me? These prompts aren't meant to invite genuine discussion. They're bait, and if you take it, you're already in the trap. But Sigma males don't operate in this emotional theater. Their communication isn't decorative, it's purposeful. A Sigma speaks with intention, not to impress, but to express. Their words aren't dipped in flattery or masked in charm. Instead, they're rooted in logic, observation, and clarity. Every sentence they speak is constructed with substance, insight over ego, facts over feelings. They don't speak to manipulate. They speak to convey. That doesn't make them emotionless. It makes them deliberate. To a narcissist, this is maddening. Their usual emotional hooks, flirtation, praise, dramatic flair, slide off the Sigma like water off steel. There's no handle to grip, no reaction to exploit. The narcissist might tell a long, embellished story expecting awe or sympathy, only to hear the Sigma calmly ask, "Interesting, but what did you actually do about it?" And that single line is like a scalpel cutting through layers of performance. That's the Sigma's power. He doesn't validate ego-driven drama. He doesn't feed delusions. He examines, questions, and when necessary, challenges. Not with aggression, but with calm precision. If something sounds exaggerated, he doesn't nod and smile. He narrows his eyes or stays silent. That silence alone becomes a mirror the narcissist can't bear to look into. Even worse than the narcissist, the Sigma's communication style is steady, rational, and grounded. It lacks the emotional volatility narcissists love to exploit. And because it's not emotionally reactive, it's nearly impossible to twist or provoke. There's no opening for manipulation, no emotional leverage point. The narcissist, who thrives on redirecting conversations toward themselves and turning words into weapons, finds their entire strategy short-circuited. Because in the Sigma, they face a man who doesn't play the emotional game, doesn't seek applause, and doesn't care to seduce. He speaks to be understood, not to be admired. And in doing so, he disarms a narcissist more effectively than any confrontation ever could. 5. Sigmas possess solitude that narcissists mistake for supremacy. To a narcissist, being noticed is everything. Their entire sense of value depends on attention, being seen, admired, and constantly validated. Without an audience, they feel like they're disappearing. They equate visibility with worth and silence with failure. So, when they encounter someone who not only doesn't seek attention, but actively avoids it, they're thrown into psychological chaos. That someone is the Sigma male. The Sigma isn't withdrawn because he's broken, bitter, or hiding. He's solitary because he's whole. He doesn't need people to define him, nor does he use social feedback to measure his value. He's emotionally self-contained, deeply at peace in his own company, and completely undisturbed by the absence of applause. While others might crave noise to drown out their insecurity, the Sigma embraces quiet to amplify his strength. Narcissists, who are addicted to visibility, don't understand this. When they see the Sigma opting out of social dynamics, they assume he's playing some superiority game. In their world, stepping away from the spotlight can only mean one thing. You think you're better than everyone else. But the truth is far more powerful and far more unsettling to them. The Sigma isn't superior. He's just sovereign. He disappears into solitude not to escape the world, but to recalibrate his mind. Each quiet moment is a choice, a moment of reflection, of strategy, of energy preservation. The Sigma's internal world is vibrant and full, so he doesn't need constant interaction to feel alive. He finds clarity where others find boredom. He finds strength where others feel insecurity. And that is a kind of power the narcissist cannot access because they are completely dependent on external reactions to maintain their identity. The Sigma, on the other hand, isn't bothered by being misunderstood. He doesn't fear disconnection. In fact, the more a narcissist tries to draw him out or provoke a response, the deeper the Sigma retreats into his mental fortress. This is why narcissistic tactics like guilt tripping, shaming, or withholding attention simply fall flat. The Sigma isn't hooked into the narcissist's emotional network. He's unplugged, and that independence is maddening to someone who thrives on emotional control. To the narcissist, the Sigma's silence feels like an insult. His solitude looks like superiority. But it's not about pride, it's about peace. He doesn't retreat to avoid life. He retreats to sharpen his edge. The Sigma's ability to thrive alone exposes a painful truth to the narcissist. True power doesn't scream. It doesn't even speak. It just is. And that quiet, undeniable presence is something the narcissist can't imitate, can't interrupt, and definitely can't understand. 6. Sigmas deconstruct manipulation mechanically, not emotionally. When most people encounter narcissistic manipulation, their initial response is emotional. They feel confused, hurt, overwhelmed. They try to make sense of the sudden coldness, the gaslighting, or the emotional games being played. And in trying to make sense of it, they get sucked in even deeper. Narcissists count on this. They want their targets emotionally destabilized because that gives them the upper hand. If you're reactive, you're vulnerable. But Sigma males operate differently. Their reaction to manipulation isn't emotional. It's analytical. When a narcissist begins spinning webs of deceit, the Sigma doesn't ask, "Why would they do this to me?" He asks, "What exactly are they trying to get out of this?" It's not personal, it's mechanical. The Sigma steps back and treats manipulation like a problem to be solved. He observes patterns. He isolates tactics. He watches behavior the way an engineer studies a faulty machine. Not with emotion, but with logic. Every strategy the narcissist employs, love bombing, triangulation, gaslighting, is seen for what it is, a tool meant to disorient and control. But that only works when the target is emotionally engaged. The Sigma isn't. And that's the narcissist's fatal miscalculation. No matter how much pressure they apply, emotional outbursts, guilt trips, tears, the Sigma remains calm. Not cold, but centered. He doesn't argue. He doesn't flinch. He simply notices. He questions. And when the manipulation becomes too obvious, he disengages completely. This methodical approach strips the narcissist's tactics of their power. It's like trying to manipulate a chess master using a child's playbook. The Sigma has seen it all before, and more importantly, he's already mapped the sequence. The narcissist, desperate to provoke a response, begins escalating. But the more emotional they become, the more detached the Sigma gets. And in that detachment, the narcissist sees the ultimate threat. Someone who cannot be moved by illusion. The Sigma doesn't view emotional manipulation as an attack. He views it as a malfunction, something to be diagnosed, understood, and neutralized. There's no ego in it, just clarity. And that clarity is lethal to someone who survives on confusion. Because in the end, the narcissist can't win against someone who doesn't buy into the lie, doesn't respond to the bait, and doesn't need emotional chaos to feel alive. The Sigma isn't playing defense. He's not even in the game. He's outside the system, watching it collapse under the weight of its own deception. 7. Sigma males are immune to identity hijacking. One of the narcissist's most dangerous weapons isn't just manipulation, it's identity theft. Not in the literal sense, but in the psychological sense. They don't stop at trying to influence what you do. They go deeper. They work to infiltrate your sense of self, rewrite your personal narrative, and plant doubts in your mind about who you really are. Slowly, they blur the line between the person you truly are and the version of you they want you to become. Before long, their voice starts to override your own inner dialogue, and your worth feels like it's measured by their shifting approval. This strategy leaves most people feeling disoriented and insecure, clinging to the narcissist version of reality because it seems safer than facing confusion alone. But Sigma males live on an entirely different wavelength. Their inner compass is not just strong, it's immovable. A Sigma male self-definition runs so deep that no external voice, no matter how insistent, can overwrite it. When a narcissist tries to feed him a false story about himself, he recognizes it instantly for what it is: cheap fiction. It doesn't match the hard-earned truth he knows about himself, so it doesn't stick. A Sigma doesn't need anyone to tell him who he is because he has already authored his own identity, and that identity is written in permanent ink. The narcissist's usual tactics, gaslighting, blame shifting, and historical revisionism, slide off without leaving a mark. They cannot reframe his past, redefine his character, or dictate his future because he's already holding the pen. This immunity to identity hijacking is more than stubbornness. It's psychological sovereignty. The narcissist's power hinges on making people question their reality, but the Sigma meets every attempted rewrite with calm clarity. He answers confusion with certainty, distortion with truth, and the more the narcissist fails to reshape him, the more their frustration builds. In the end, the narcissist is forced to face an infuriating reality. Their most prized method of control is useless against someone whose self-awareness is fortified like a fortress. The Sigma's quiet mastery becomes a silent but devastating rejection, one that leaves a narcissist not just powerless, but exposed. 8. Sigmas operate on self-command, so external chaos fails. Chaos is the narcissist's playground. They thrive in emotional storms, not because they enjoy the conflict itself, but because chaos gives them control. They manufacture confusion, pit people against each other, and stir drama until no one can think straight. In this state of emotional disarray, they can direct the narrative, manipulate perceptions, and keep themselves at the center of attention. For most people, it works. They get rattled, lose focus, and react impulsively, exactly as the narcissist intended. But Sigma males are wired differently. They live under the guidance of an internal command system that is steady, clear, and unaffected by outside turbulence. Their sense of purpose is set internally, so when a narcissist tries to drag them into theatrics, it barely registers as background noise. While others get pulled into emotional whirlpools, the Sigma stays anchored. His focus is mission-oriented, driven by deliberate choice rather than emotional impulse. Even if the narcissist raises their voice, spins lies, or detonates some fabricated crisis, the Sigma doesn't pivot his life around it. It's irrelevant to his path. The narcissist may escalate, trying hard to provoke a reaction, but only amplifies a glaring contrast. They are frantic. The Sigma is composed. They are desperate for control. The Sigma is already in command of himself. This calm resistance doesn't just frustrate the narcissist. It dismantles their strategy entirely. They cannot destabilize what never bends, and they cannot control someone who refuses to hand them the wheel in the first place. The result is predictable but devastating for the narcissist. Every outburst, every lie, every attempt to generate chaos ends in futility. The Sigma doesn't just survive the storm. He walks through it untouched. 9. Sigma males can't be lured into emotional debt. One of the narcissist's most manipulative tactics is the invisible transaction. They present their praise, attention, or affection as if it's free, but in reality, it's bait. There's always an unspoken invoice attached, and when the time comes, they'll cash it in. That's when the familiar line appears. After everything I've done for you, suddenly, you're reminded of every compliment, every small favor, every fleeting moment of attention, reframed as proof that you now owe them loyalty, compliance, or praise. This works brilliantly on people who are wired to reciprocate, even if they never agreed to the exchange. But Sigma males aren't part of this emotional economy. When a narcissist offers them kindness or flattery, they don't automatically accept it as a debt to be repaid. Instead, they assess it. Was it genuine, or was there an angle? Was it freely given, or was it an investment in future control? If it smells like manipulation, the Sigma quietly discards it. If it's sincere, he'll accept it with gratitude, but still without obligation. Either way, he retains his freedom. And this infuriates narcissists because it breaks their covert system of control. They can't guilt a Sigma into action, and they can't use past favors as chains around his neck. When the narcissist eventually tries to collect an imaginary debt, expecting compliance, they're met with calm refusal. No panic, no shame, just an unapologetic no. This moment exposes their manipulation for what it is and strips them the leverage they thought they had. For the Sigma, it's not about being ungrateful. It's about rejecting a false economy where affection is a tool for control. And once the narcissist realizes their currency is worthless in the Sigma's world, they have nothing left to bargain with. 10. Sigmas mirror the narcissist's emptiness without feeding it. Narcissists are emotional parasites. They draw energy from praise, admiration, fear, guilt. Any reaction that centers them in someone else's emotional world. They engineer situations to guarantee the supply, surrounding themselves with people who will absorb their drama and feed it back in a way that reinforces their inflated self-image. But when they encounter a Sigma male, that cycle collapses. The Sigma doesn't absorb their emotional chaos. He observes it. He doesn't give them the emotional fuel they're seeking. Instead, he reflects their behavior back exactly as it is. And this is the kind of mirror a narcissist dreads. When a narcissist tells an exaggerated story to gain sympathy, the Sigma might calmly repeat it back without embellishment, stripping it of an emotional charge. When they attempt to provoke guilt or awe, he responds with neutral acknowledgement, never the flattery or fear they crave. The result is a raw reflection of their own emptiness, delivered without judgment but also without validation. To the narcissist, this is deeply unsettling. They don't want to see the truth of their behavior. They want others to reinforce the fantasy. But the Sigma's reflection shows the cracks, the desperation, and the hollowness they try so hard to hide. And because the Sigma stays emotionally unmoved throughout, the narcissist can't manipulate him into softening the blow. The lack of emotional engagement starves the narcissist of their supply. Without praise, without outrage, without any kind of reaction, the entire performance loses its purpose. Eventually, they're left facing themselves, and that's the one audience they can't bear to perform for. The Sigma doesn't just refuse to play their game. He quietly dismantles it by holding up a mirror they can't control, can't distort, and can't escape. 11. Sigmas understand power but don't crave dominance. Narcissists live and breathe for dominance. It's their lifeblood. They can't stand not being the focal point of every room they enter. Their identity hinges on being the loudest, most commanding presence, the one to whom others naturally defer. For them, control isn't just a preference. It's proof that they matter. Their entire self-worth is constructed on fragile foundations of admiration, obedience, and superiority. However, their interpretation of power is loud, theatrical, and superficial. It's not rooted in true strength or self-awareness, but in a need to constantly be seen, applauded, and reaffirmed. This craving is insatiable, and without it, their inflated persona begins to crumble. Sigma males, in stark contrast, don't pursue dominance, they deconstruct it. They see power not as a throne to sit on, but as a structure to study and understand. They're not driven by the urge to control others or steal the spotlight. Instead, they're fascinated by the deeper layers of human systems, how influence flows, how people interact, how psychological mechanisms operate. Rather than engaging in surface-level competition, they master the rules behind the scenes. Social frameworks, psychological leverage, silent hierarchies, and unspoken codes of influence. While the narcissist is busy winning the audience with showmanship and ego theatrics, the Sigma is quietly observing how the stage is built and who really controls the lights. This behind-the-scenes insight terrifies narcissists because Sigmas don't react the way others do. They don't feel threatened by power plays. They don't fall into traps of vanity or games of one-upmanship. They aren't trying to impress, outshine, or dominate because they already know who they are and where they stand. They see narcissists for what they are, insecure individuals masquerading as powerful ones. What makes a Sigma so dangerous to the narcissist is precisely this emotional independence. The Sigma male is immune to validation traps, immune to popularity contests, and completely indifferent to social status games. He doesn't get lured by praise, and he isn't baited by criticism. You can't drag him into a tug-of-war for control because he's not pulling the rope in the first place. He's not playing that game. As the narcissist struggles to provoke, outwit, or overshadow the Sigma, they're met with an immovable force. Someone who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, and doesn't need the room's approval. This triggers a breakdown in the narcissist strategy. They realize, often too late, that the Sigma isn't just out of reach. He's operating on a completely different frequency. In their heart, narcissists know the bitter truth. They're noisy, but the Sigma is effective. They require endless praise to keep functioning, but the Sigma runs on self-command and inner clarity. The narcissist is fragile beneath the facade, while the Sigma is grounded and unshakable. And while the narcissist obsesses over being seen as powerful, the Sigma simply understands power, quietly, deeply, and unrelentingly. And that kind of understanding, that's real power. The kind that doesn't need to dominate to be dominant. 12. Sigmas can outsource emotion while staying in command. To the narcissist, emotion is a weapon of choice, a volatile tool used to destabilize others and maintain control. They thrive in emotional chaos. In fact, they intentionally stir it up. They provoke, confuse, guilt trip, love bomb, and withhold affection, all to pull people into their storm. Once you're emotionally entangled, they gain the upper hand. You begin second-guessing yourself, explaining your feelings, trying to fix misunderstandings. In this state of emotional defensiveness, they seize control. But Sigma males, they don't fight in that arena. Yes, they feel emotions, they're human, but they don't let emotions hijack their judgment. They've learned to treat emotions like tools, something to be recognized, held, and analyzed, not something to obey blindly. If the moment isn't right or the emotion isn't helpful, the Sigma sets it aside, stores it mentally, and revisits it only when it serves a purpose. This isn't about emotional suppression. It's about compartmentalization and clarity. That's a kind of mental discipline most people never attain, and narcissists can't even comprehend. While others are swept away by emotional tides, reacting to every high and low, the Sigma remains still, calculated, even surgical in his responses. When a narcissist lashes out, yelling, guilt-tripping, flattering, or stonewalling, the Sigma doesn't bite. He notices what's happening, but he doesn't feed it with emotional energy. He doesn't offer the reaction the narcissist craves. His emotional detachment isn't born of coldness. It's a strategy, and it dismantles a narcissist's entire playbook. Because narcissists don't know how to operate when their tactics don't spark chaos. They rely on others reacting emotionally, yelling back, pleading, chasing, or withdrawing. But when faced with someone who simply stays calm and clear-minded, they're left with nothing to manipulate. The Sigma processes feelings, but he doesn't act on them prematurely. Every word is chosen deliberately. Every silence is strategic. Every move is intentional. There is no escalation, no retreat, just unwavering command. This kind of emotional precision sends a narcissist into crisis. Their usual tricks don't work. Their drama fizzles out. The chaos they summon fails to ignite. And the battlefield, the one they thought they ruled, becomes a sterile space where their emotional bombs fall flat. In the end, the narcissist doesn't lose because the Sigma out-yelled or out-fought them. He loses because the Sigma never entered the emotional arena in the first place. The Sigma just stood still, watched, waited, and the narcissist unraveled all on their own. That's not just strength. It's a kind of power that can't be baited, broken, or controlled. Final thoughts. The quiet unraveling. The dynamic between a Sigma male and a narcissist is rarely loud. It's not an epic clash or dramatic showdown. It's a quiet unraveling, slow, devastating, and final. One person operates through smoke and mirrors, addicted to attention and applause. The other walks in silence, seeing through the illusion with surgical precision. The narcissist expects to walk into every room and command it. They assume everyone they meet is either a fan, a follower, or a fragile ego waiting to be dominated. But when they encounter a Sigma male, something shifts. They sense the stillness, the lack of need, the absence of emotional bait. There's no tension in the air, no energy screaming, "Notice me." Just a quiet presence that's deeply rooted and entirely unimpressed. That calm, so sovereign, so detached, is what unhinges a narcissist. Because suddenly, they realize they're facing someone who doesn't need them, can't be manipulated, and definitely won't play along. The Sigma is a sealed fortress. No energy leaks, no emotional vulnerabilities to exploit, no participation in the narcissist drama. The Sigma watches, but he never joins performance. That alone terrifies a narcissist, not because the Sigma is aggressive or arrogant, but because he's immune. Sigma males operate on a frequency rooted in logic, detachment, self-awareness, and emotional sovereignty, while others get tangled in the narcissist's chaos. The Sigma is already 5 moves ahead, quietly observing, decoding patterns, and walking away before the trap is even set. And here's the truth that stays with a narcissist long after the Sigma has left the room. Someone saw them for exactly what they are, without falling under the spell. Someone stood unaffected, untouched, and unmoved. The Sigma became a mirror with no reflection, proof that the narcissist's illusion isn't universal, that their control has limits, that their performance didn't land. In a world flooded with noise, narcissists scream for attention. But Sigmas? Sigmas are silence. And nothing echoes louder or longer than silence that cannot be manipulated. That's not resistance. That's psychological dominance. And the narcissist never even saw it coming. Do you resonate with the ideas I shared in this video? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in more content about Sigma males, explore the other videos on this channel. Thanks for watching.